Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Essential Wellness Educational Series. My name is Aisha Harley, and I'm always excited to be here with you. We do these events monthly, and we are thrilled and excited to bring you ongoing education about how to use essential oils to support your wellness, your vitality, your health, your happiness. And we have an amazing presentation for you today, one that is really important for all of us humans to know about and to be educated about. And we have two brilliant presenters. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce them, and we're just going to jump right into our presentation. Our first presenter is Dr. Josie Schmidt. She is an ND. She is a doTERRA Diamond and an Aroma in Touch instructor. She is also a longtime and very dear friend of mine, and she is brilliant, and we are really blessed to have her wisdom and experience that she shares with all of us on an ongoing basis. We also have another brilliant doctor in the house, Dr. Jenny Tufenkian. She is also incredible. She's been in practice for years, and she has so much wisdom to share with all of us. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the presentation right on over to them, and they are going to take it from here. Here you go, ladies.
Great. Thank you, Aisha. Hi, Dr. T.
Hi, Dr. Josie Schmidt.
I know we're doing our presentation today together, but we're in bi locations. I think that's a new word. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Our intention in this webinar today is to educate and empower everyone to understand your hormone systems and how they can be brought into harmony simply, easily, and with daily practices. When Dr. Tufenkian and I were working on this presentation, we actually had a broad range of information and some different presentations we've done in the past. And what we really realized is that we have more than one body of information and things that we want to share with you, and really more than one presentation. So we are going to start a little two-part series is what we decided on, with this first adrenal hormone health as the part one. And we're going to finish it up with a second part in a few months on overall hormone health, the rest of the hormones, in the second part, because it's such a broad topic and there's so much wonderful stuff to share and with you guys. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to have two parts, and we really want to we need to start off with the adrenals. And that's what you're going to learn today, why they're so important and why they're foundational and at the base, and that you start working with them first at the foundational level, and then all the rest of the hormone systems are going to be helped into coming into balance through first addressing and supporting the adrenals. So that is our topic today. And before we go further, and Dr. Tufenkian is going to start us off, I want to just give a special shout out and a attention to that everything that I, as a physician, and I know Dr. Tufenkian can also state for yourself, that we're speaking about today, and what we are suggesting and that we've worked with is really with CPTG oils. And what is that? That is certified pure therapeutic grade essential oils. And that standard is a standard that doTERRA has put forth because they really found that there wasn't adequate standards in the market that they were happy with. This is really the mission of the company. And for people who might be new and not as familiar with what it stands for, please talk to someone who introduced you to this webinar and gather some more information about certified pure therapeutic grade. There's a wonderful website called source2u.com that doTERRA has put out to really help you learn and understand further what is going on with this grade and why it is so important and what is differentiating it as a therapeutic grade for people to be safe utilizing internal oils inside with internal use and also with neat application. And so when I am prescribing and using oils, I really only use this standard. And so I just wanted to sort of say that as a beginning. And let's get started then with our presentation about adrenal hormone health.
Great. Thanks, Josie. All right, everybody. So my big question to you is, what do you want, right? Would you like to have an abundant amount of energy? Would you like to have so much energy in the day that you have energy left over at the end of the day for time for yourself? Would that be a good thing to have? How about having a body that feels and looks as good as it feels inside? How about a menstrual cycle that's absolutely no problem at all? Good night's sleep, nice libido, gorgeous skin, all of these things, right? I think we all can say that we want these things, right?
I do.
Right. The question is, what do we have? And unfortunately, a lot of us have this. We have fatigue. And I personally have been here a few times in my life. And some of you may have all the vitality that you want, and that is fantastic if you do. Keep doing what you're doing. But a lot of people don't. And I know Josie and I have both crashed a couple times, and Josie has a particular story she'd like to share today.
You know, my initial experience with the certified pure therapeutic grade oils is pretty much about this, in the sense that there's nothing that'll crash your adrenals better than going through naturopathic school. It's a grueling experience, 10 hours a day, right? Studying for 4 to 5 years. And so yeah, by the end of that experience, most of us are pretty crashed. That's what we found after the fact. No one told us. And it took a lot to recover. It took me many, many years in my journey of learning and expressing and working with all my naturopathic practices. And it was then about 12 years later that I came into contact with doTERRA and these oils, because I was going through, and that's another thing I've seen, kind of another round of adrenals from just stressful life, and also getting older. Coming into my main symptom, which has to do with my family history and of autoimmunity and a lot of inflammation happening in my whole body and my brain. And I was experiencing a lot of brain fog. And I was using all my best materials of naturopathic medicine that I had. And it was really taking and working with topical and internal CPTG frankincense that just really helped with that inflammation and that brain fog and my adrenals and my energy, and shifted that whole experience again for me. So it was a huge process for me in that, and seeing how these oils address that beginning fatigue, because we're both going to talk, and Dr. Tufenkian is definitely going to talk about that connection between the immune system and the adrenals, and how that will, the adrenals getting affected will start to affect your immune system's ability to function correctly.
And so the really big question is, how is it that we get to this state? How is it that Josie got there? How is it that I've been there? How is it that you have gotten there? And honestly, we can sum it up in a word. It's stress. So I'm so stressed out over being stressed out that I can't even remember why I'm stressed out. It's stressing me out. It's the stress kitty. Have you ever felt like the stress kitty? I know I have at times.
Yeah.
And this is really hard on us. It's amazing to realize that 90% of doctor visits are stress related. And we just wonder, how could that possibly be? And that's when we start talking about the adrenal glands, because the adrenals are our stress managers. They help us manage our stress. They are, as you can see from this really cool picture up here on the screen, they're the little illuminated red things, and they sit right on top of your kidneys on the lower part of your back. And how they work is that they respond to a stimulus from your brain. So in our brain, we have a place called the limbic center, and this is where we perceive a lot of our emotions. If we're feeling stress or fear, then that signals hormones to release down to the adrenals, and the adrenals then release a series of different hormones. One of them is cortisol, and that cortisol is meant to increase and actually release sugar into our bloodstream so that we can run really fast from the tiger. If there's a tiger chasing us, it puts more sugar into our brain so we can really strategize and think how to escape this terrible tiger that's going to eat us up. It changes the way our vision is, it changes our digestion, it does all of these things to help us survive. The adrenals are essential for our life. But the issue is that, and then once we escape the tiger, they're supposed to go back down into this normal state. And the cortisol, it's interesting. Cortisol has a pattern throughout the day. What you can see here on the screen is there is this sort of shaded green little graph here. That's within the normal curve. And so you can see that, and it starts in the morning time, and the morning is supposed to be really nice high cortisol time. That's super important for our immune system. What happens when cortisol is really high in the morning time is that it creates an immune wash. It actually helps the body get rid of viruses and bacteria and other pathogens. So that happens in the morning. It also makes you feel like you're ready to get up and go and have a great day. Then what happens as we go into middle of the day and late afternoon is it begins to come down. In the evening, it's lowest. And then as we sleep, it comes back up as we're sleeping throughout the night. And so this is considered a very normal, healthy curve. However, what can happen is that when we are under constant stress, which we're not meant to be, we're not meant to be constantly running from the tiger. But a lot of us in this day and age, that's exactly what we're doing. We feel like we're rushing around all the time. And that triggers this whole pattern in our brain. And so what can happen is that we end up in what's called a high cortisol state. So I can give you an example from my life, as I had something called frozen shoulder, which put my shoulder into absolute severe pain for over a year. And I couldn't sleep at night. And so because I couldn't sleep, I decided I might as well get up and work. And I would get up in the middle of the night and work on my projects and my charts and just kept going through my day. And I ended up being in probably what would be considered a high cortisol state. So at that point, I just stayed at a very high cortisol level all the time. What this makes you feel like is it makes you feel like you can get stuff done, but you don't really feel very good inside. It's sort of a tired and wired sort of feeling. And I call it the bad coffee inside me all the time, like that bad truck stop coffee that I used to drink sometimes when I was on road trips in my 20s. It's that kind of stuff. So that's what happened. And then after I was in that state for a prolonged period of time, and this is frequently what happens to people, is that then my cortisol plummeted. My adrenals were frankly exhausted, done, didn't want to do any more. So at that point, I had what's called a flatline adrenal. And that's actually depicted here in this dark bluey purpley line down at the bottom of your picture. And that's when you just don't have very much cortisol. That makes you feel tired all the time. You wake up in the morning and you just think, how am I going to make it through this day? And it's hard. It's a hard place to be. The other strange pattern that can happen with the cortisol is that it can get oddly reversed. Instead of being high in the morning and low at nighttime, it can become flipped, where it's low in the morning and then it's high at nighttime. People who have this kind of a pattern, they feel really, really tired in the daytime, and then at nighttime they can't sleep. This is really common with new moms and dads who have been up all night with their babies for months or even years, and their whole circadian rhythm gets completely thrown off. And they end up having a very hard time sleeping at night. The kid finally goes to sleep, and then you're so ready for bed, and then you're just lying there and you can't sleep. So that's called a reverse pattern. I just want to continue on here and say that we have all of these different adrenal zappers, and these I call our modern day saber-toothed tigers. So these are all the factors that actually trigger some adrenal fatigue. You may recognize some of these in some of your life. Having financial issues, being really stressed out about needing to pay the bills, or having some relationship stress with coworkers or partners or kids, that can really begin to drain our adrenal glands. Lifestyle choices, eating foods that we're sensitive to, drinking too much coffee, alcohol, smoking, these kinds of things are very hard on the body and can be challenging for the adrenals. And also allergies. If you have things that you're allergic to, that can do it. And then there's something a lot of people don't realize, which is that you can have chronic low-grade infections. You can have chronic viral infections or bacterial infections, and that creates an inflammatory response in your body that the adrenals interpret as a stress. And that too becomes very tiring on the adrenal glands and is sometimes an underlying aspect of people who are feeling really tired. So
actually, right, in dental situations, that's one hidden place that there's underlying infections that people don't really know about.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. There can often be a little pocket of infection and people don't understand that that's what's really affecting their symptom, right? Yeah. Anything else you'd like to add, Josie?
No, I mean, you're still going around the wheel toxins, which we'll get into more in part 2, and how our world today is just so inundated with environmental toxins outside, in the air we breathe, but in our own home, in our cleaning, in our makeup, in our home and personal care. So that there's things we can't do a lot about, and there's things we can do some things about in terms of.
And we'll get to that, the things that we can do. There's a lot you can do about all of these things. Absolutely. And I just want to say that this, in the slide, to say the word negative attitudes and beliefs and fear. And that is one of the main things I just want to point out, that we have a brain that's actually built to be predator and prey. So it's very easy for us to get triggered into this, what we call sympathetic mode, where we're in the sympathetic fear, prey state of mind all the time. And it's not really a life-threatening situation trying to get your kid to school on time, but it begins to feel like that in our body, and our body begins to set up a response as if it is.
Yeah. The stresses, I think you were saying, the stresses of just at modern day living, right, and so much screen time, watching a chase scene in a movie, or violence on the screen in movies. I enjoy my fair share of that, but know that your body does not know the difference. So this is something that Dr. Tufenkian and I have talked about, is the adrenals, in a sense, are not like a smartphone. They're like the old version. They don't, in the chemicals and in physiologically in our body, with the adrenal systems and the hormones, cannot tell the difference between something virtual and on screen and the way that our brain chemistry is reacting to it. Then it actually, so that's why we had up there the modern day saber-toothed tigers. These things are not chasing us. We're not running from our lives, but our body reacts the same way as if it was. And so that's some of the lifestyle that we're seeing, where we are experiencing these stress hormones while we're sitting sedentary at our computers, at our desks all day long. And that combination is really dangerous for us. And we're starting to see all these health complications because of it.
That's right. Yes. And that begins to that stress on the adrenals. We'll talk a lot about how it interrelates with some of the other hormones. And this is why we don't always feel so great. And hormones are like a symphony. There are many individual instruments contributing to one piece of music. When they work in concert together, it is beautiful. If one or more instruments becomes out of tune, disharmony prevails. And it's just so true, and we're so sensitive to the most exquisite, tiny shifts in our hormones that we can make us feel pretty rough. So Josie and I love this slide because it's a little, doctory. And this really begins to explain the interconnectedness of our brains and our hormones and the rest of our body. And you can begin to understand how 90% of doctor visits are stress related. The top here looks at the limbic system, and that is the part in the brain that I was talking about. It's a very old part of the brain, in the back of your brain, that houses our emotional response to things. And this piece here is, again, where when we first have an emotional response of, say, fear or stress, that it begins to trigger a stress response. And you can see as it go down the pathway, it goes down to something called the autonomic system. That is our nervous system, and that puts us into a stress. It can put us into either a stressful or a non-stressful state of mind. If we're under stress, it puts us into the sympathetic mode and really shuts down our digestive system. If you're running from the tiger, you don't need to digest your food. You just need to get away from the tiger. So your digestion is going to shut down. So if you're in a constant state of stress, or frequently in a constant state of stress, you might have gastrointestinal symptoms. Another piece where it comes down is it can really, in the middle, it talks about the endocrine system. Those are your hormones. So again, if you're under a lot of stress a lot of the times, your body may not have the proper balance of estrogen and progesterone and testosterone. And you're going to end up with some hormonal imbalances and symptoms from that. And then it also, as Josie mentioned in the beginning, it very much affects your immune system. The immune system does not function properly when, again, we're just trying to live and to survive and escape. So whenever we're talking as naturopathic doctors, we talk about something called the golden triangle. And this is where this really talks about how the different major hormone centers interrelate with each other. So we have the thyroid, the ovaries or testes for men and boys, and the adrenal glands. And the key here is that the adrenal glands are king. So anytime we have anybody comes into my clinic and I'm suspicious that there's some sort of imbalance going on in their body, they have PMS, they have menstrual problems, they have poor fertility, they have low libido, they have skin issues, they have acne, they are tired, they can't sleep well, they have digestive problems, all those things. I always begin to look at this and think, which of these players are in play, and are the adrenals there? Because if they're there at all, we need to address the adrenals first. And a good example of the way that these will work together is they'll help each other out. So if one is sort of flagging in its energy, the other one will start to rev things up. If people have, frequently patients will come into me with symptoms of hypothyroid, and their test may or may not be normal. But often, if I look at their adrenals are really tired. And what has happened is that their adrenals have been overworking for years. And then the thyroid starts to kick in to start to help the adrenals out. Once you then take care of the adrenals, the thyroid goes back into being balanced. A really classic example of this is when we see women in perimenopause. So what happens is women in their 20s and 30s and 40s just completely overdo it. We think that we have to be really awesome and perfect and fantastic at everything that we do all the time. And so we're always going, and we end up exhausting our adrenal glands. It's very normal in normal physiology. When a woman is in her 40s and 50s, the ovaries are supposed to shut down their function. They're supposed to stop working. And the adrenals are meant to begin to take over some of that work. There's some of the hormones that the adrenals secrete that the ovaries used to, and so that balance them out. But what happens is if women have already go into perimenopause with adrenal fatigue, is that the adrenals can't do that part. So two things happen. One, women get a lot more symptoms of perimenopause. They get more hot flashes, more mood swings, those kinds of things. And the second is that the thyroid tries its hardest to help out. And it just starts to work and work and work. And then women frequently end up getting hypothyroid when they are postmenopausal.
Yes. So thank you, Dr. T. I hope you guys are kind of starting to see this picture. We really wanted that slide of that symphony and the interrelatedness, and especially when we talk about hormone balance from our middle years into perimenopause and menopause, how the thyroid and the adrenals really connect to the rest of your hormone health, of your estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone.
Yeah. So given that there's this imbalance, that there's this balancing act that needs to happen between them, and we know that we need to address the adrenals first, what are some signs and symptoms of adrenal dysregulation? And I'll tell you that these are the things that I'm listening for when I'm talking with my patients. And there are a lot of them, but it begins to become a very clear pattern. So there can be weight gain or weight loss, and that depends on where you are in the spectrum. If you're a high cortisol or lower cortisol, or how long it's been going on, you can have one of those. But I will tell you, the weight gain is usually around your midsection for men and women. And they talk about how you can measure your stress by the size of your waist. And that is because the body in its wisdom wants to help us survive. And what it does is it holds on to abdominal fat when we are under stress, because it thinks that we're in famine. And it thinks that we're not going to have enough food, and it wants to provide enough energy for us to survive. You can have cravings for salt and sugar. That's extremely common. The adrenals really thrive on, they affect your salt and sugar balance in your body, and so they just want to have a lot of that to be able to release into your blood. Your libido may be affected. Lightheaded, feeling a little dizzy, that can happen from having low blood pressure. Frequently, people will be sitting down or lying down, and they stand up really quickly and they just feel a little bit dizzy or might see stars. That is a sign of low blood pressure, and very common with adrenal fatigue. Having a low backache, just sort of a very low, so just sort of dull ache. It's right where the kidneys are. And then as we then talked about with the immune system, just feeling like it's really easy to catch everything that walks in the room. Often your other lab tests may be normal. You maybe see other doctors who say, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on with you at all. And sometimes the energy can fluctuate. You can imagine, if you think back to that graph of where your energy is supposed to be high in the morning and come down naturally throughout the day. You may have enough energy at one or the other those times. Your cortisol levels might be normal during that time and you're fine, but it may be really off at other times. So there's often, some days you feel good and other days you don't. Often feeling really very tired. I have Aisha's dog here that really wants to say hello to me, which I actually love. I'm sorry to be ignoring him or her.
Going through this whole list, and I don't know, Jenny. I just thought all this stuff was like normal. I don't know what.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's your post-medical school reality, right? Yeah. It's not normal. It's not. We don't have to be this way. So being really wiped out after physical or mental exertion, and being a little adrenal fatigue, people tend to be a little anxious or irritable, and they just easily feel just overwhelmed. Like just life is just too much. It's just too much. And they can have some blood sugar issues. Hangry is a term that my college-age son introduced me to a couple years ago. I like that one. That worked for me.
Again, isn't this just how everyone is?
It's not normal, Josie.
I've been known for my hangriness.
Yeah. I will say that, when I was in the throes of some of my largest adrenal issues in the past, I had to eat every hour and a half. And once I healed up my adrenals, I really didn't have to do that anymore. They really do come back in balance. And then something called energy sparing behavior. And what I mean by this is, and people who are tired know what I'm talking about. It's like you're on an energy budget and you only have $10 to spend in energy that day. And you're walking into a place to eat the plates are $25. And you're stressed out and trying to figure out how you're going to get through your day with your $10, right? And so that is, and so you start negotiating in your head. It's stressful. That's stressful too. You're starting to figure out like, okay, I have these things on my list. What do I need to get done? Maybe I can't go meet my friends. Maybe I shouldn't go to the gym. I don't know. Will I feel better after that or not? I'm not sure. It's that kind of negotiation that happens with the energy sparing behavior. And then having sleep issues.
Yeah.
So again, three types.
All joking aside, I've experienced most of these at different points in my life. I've had a couple different real adrenal and chronic health issue times. After school was one of them, and then later, and then earlier, about 3 different times in my life. And these are fairly discernible, right? You're like and I think we got the whole tired after physical or mental exertion. That's a real specific one where normally if you enjoy exercise with the adrenals being really low, it's that you go and you do the exercise and you are actually, it exhausts you. Rather than giving you energy and making you feel better, it takes away.
Right.
And there's that kind of rule that you should, isn't it an hour afterwards, you should feel like you still have about 50% of your energy?
Right. Yeah. Or more than that.
So I know from myself, there's the hangry and the irritable, anxious, overwhelmed. Those are kind of my symptoms that I look at for how much stress I have going on in my life. But naturally, I've been called a squirrel in the morning. Like, I wake up supremely happy and energetic. Like, bing, I'm awake, squirrel. And during my real adrenal times of severe fatigue, that was not the case. Wake up just absolutely dragging and exhausted. So a lot of times you'll kind of know some of your norms, and there will be some real differences with them.
Right. And so there are these 3 types. There's the tired and wired, can't sleep, but increased energy in the evening, and exhausted all the time. And I will say that the other piece in here is that increased energy in the evening, a lot of people with adrenal fatigue really are dragging throughout their day. And then it comes to 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, and they're like, oh, finally I can get stuff done. That's my best time of the day. And I just have to warn you, that's what's happening is, again, if you think back to that graph where the cortisol is high in the morning, comes down at night, and then I said, while you're sleeping, your cortisol comes back up in the day. What's happening with that second wind that you get at nighttime, or your first wind if you're really tired, is that you are actually spending tomorrow's energy today. So that is like taking your savings account and spending it to cover everything you're doing today. And that's not helpful in terms of getting your adrenals sorted out. All right, so here's a little time for you to just take a second and think, do you have all the energy that you want? Do you feel like you can manifest your dreams and do that with joy and the squirrel attitude that Josie talks about? So, and how about the people that you love or people on your team? How are they doing? Let's think about that for a sec. All right, so what do you do about it? I absolutely love doTERRA's mission because I feel like it's very naturopathic, and that's what I've committed my life to, is to helping people regain a sense of empowerment with their health. And doTERRA has this pyramid, and it's really so important to realize that you can make so many lifestyle changes to really dramatically improve your health. So you need to eat right, exercise, rest and manage your stress, reduce your toxic load. And then you get to the point of informed self-care. That's when you bring in your oils and your supplements and any other treatments that you want to bring in. And then if you need to, you consult with medical professionals. So I'm going to walk you through these different steps for very, very specific treatments that have been studied and proven clinically to be helpful for adrenal health. So if there's one thing that you were to do before I go into the whole pyramid, it is to rebalance your circadian rhythm. So what that means is you want to sleep and eat and exercise at about the same time every day. So I always like to think about this as like taking care of a newborn baby. So when babies are born, most of them, unless you're incredibly lucky, really are born and they have no clue what their day and night schedule is. So you have to very carefully and gently support them in learning when bedtime is. So it's good to put yourself to bed, even if you don't want to, and go to sleep at about the same time every night. Wake up at about the same time every morning, and then exercise at about the same time every day, and eat your 3 main meals at about within an hour of the same time. So between like 8 and 9 o'clock in the morning. It's very important.
So Jenny, I have one thing quickly I want to say is when I was in naturopathic school, that's when I was practicing very seriously. The beginning of my Ashtanga yoga practice. Yeah. And it was a pretty expensive 2-hour practice. And in the first 3 years of naturopathic school, I was doing it at night. Now this is an age-old practice that's supposed to, and they're very specific in India, supposed to be done in the morning.
4 a.m.
Yes, 4 a.m., 4 to 7. But my life and lifestyle in medical school was I couldn't do it. So I was doing it from 7 to 9 p.m. three nights a week. And by my third year of school, I was flatlining adrenally, and I was doing the adrenal stress index, that graph that we showed. And the teacher and the clinician, Dr. Tom, he looked at it, and it was an inverse of the curve. It was basically low at night and high, low in the morning and high at night. And he looked at me and he said, is there something you're doing in the evening that's very stimulating? I look at me going, well, I'm doing this yoga practice, but that's supposed to be good for me. So I'm just pointing out, I completely reversed my curve doing a wonderful, beautiful exercise practice at night. So the importance of that idea of that circadian rhythm, you can completely switch around, even though you think you might be doing a good thing for yourself. If you're really stimulating and doing an intense exercise at the nighttime, you can completely switch the curve.
That's right. Yeah. And we see that.
Yeah. Just the importance also of that kind of rhythm and how much you can affect it.
That's right.
In a good way, with good practices. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. So for fast-acting relief, try slowing down. I love this quote, and I think it's really good, wise words for a very impatient world.
Yes.
All right, so diets. So there are a lot of diets out there. There is not any one diet that is perfect for everyone. Diets are individualized, and it depends on what sort of health issues you're dealing with. It depends on your genetics. It depends on your cultural and your belief. It depends on your age. The diet that was good for me when I was pregnant is not the diet that I need now. It's very different. So I really think people need to hone their diet for their own individual health issues. This diet is the latest on what is supportive for adrenal health. So really a lower carb breakfast with protein and vegetables. That can be vegan protein or not. Either is fine. Same thing with lunch, keeping it fairly lower carb. So just big salad, some protein on there, cooked vegetables. We cook a lot of vegetables for breakfast in my house. And then for dinner, you want to continue having the vegetables and the protein, but this is where you actually want to bring in something called a complex carb. That would be like your yams, sweet potatoes, your winter squash, these kinds of things really help maintain better blood sugar throughout the evening. And you might need snacks. Like I said earlier, you might need snacks throughout the day. If you feel like you're really flagging or getting that hangry state between meals, then please do eat something. Have a handful of nuts or seeds or a piece of fruit or some vegetables with hummus. That kind of thing is a really great snack. You want to make sure your breakfast is within an hour after rising. I do think there's a place for intermittent fasting in healthcare, but not if you're dealing with adrenal fatigue. You have got to address your adrenals first. Your adrenals will interpret fasting as an additional stress, and they don't have the bandwidth to handle that at this time. So fix your adrenals, and then you can take advantage of intermittent fasting if you want to. You might need a snack before bed. That time, some people wake up at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning feeling anxious. Your blood sugar can plummet and wakes you up and makes you feel just kind of weird. So people really benefit from having a snack before bedtime if that's going on. And caffeine really, it feels like your friend, but it's not. All right, so hydration is super important for everything. And we always recommend dividing your weight in half and drinking that many ounces of water in a day, and then adding a few drops of lemon, grapefruit, lime, one of your favorite citrus oils, so you have ongoing detoxification. And Josie's really going to dig into this deep when she talks about the hormones and the liver health in a few months. Exercise. So we talked a bit about this, but adrenal exercise, so the golden rule is that you shouldn't be too tired an hour after you work out. So it's normal that your body interprets exercise as a stress. It's considered a healthy stress. And normally your cortisol will actually increase while you're exercising, and then it kind of takes a little bit of a dive after you exercise, and then it goes back to normal. This should all happen within about an hour after you work out. So if after an hour you're working out, you are on the couch going, man, I don't know how I'm going to get the dishes done, you overdid it. So what you need to do is back it down. And there may be some times of the day that you can do a really intense exercise. My good time is first thing in the morning. So if I'm not off at work first thing in the morning, it's one of my exercise days, I can go do something fairly intensive at that time and it's fine. But at the end of the day, I need to choose to do something more relaxing, like take a walk or take a yoga class, a yin yoga class, something like that. So please notice how you're feeling and let your body be the guide as to what you're ready to do. Sleep is so essential. You need to have, again, the regular schedule. Again, think about it like the baby. You need to go to bed at a good bedtime, even if you don't want to. Bed before 10 o'clock is really, really helpful. There's something I learned from Sarah Godfrey that I love. It's called the sleep train. And the sleep train leaves the station at around 9:30 for most people. And if you can be into bed and be ready to be on that train, your sleep is sweet. You fall asleep really easily. But if you miss that train, it is hard to wait. You have to wait a while for the next train to come in the station. And I know I experienced this. Sometimes if I am up too late doing something else and I go to bed later, I'm lying there for a while going, okay, when's the next train coming in? We've also know that our sleep, the hours before midnight are twice as restful to us as the hours after midnight. So if you can go to bed at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, you are doubling your money down in your sleep department, which is pretty good. I think that naps can be very, very helpful for people who are fatigued. However, if it's interrupting your night sleep, you need to change it. So you need to either have your nap earlier in the day or you need to have it be a little bit shorter. And just so pay attention to that. And then I love Shavasana in the daytime. This is a little pearl I learned from one of my teachers, which is to be able to just lie on your back in Shavasana or corpse pose for 11 minutes. So set the timer on your phone and just absolutely relax. Put a little eye pillow on and put a little lavender on it and just rest for 11 minutes. And it is amazing how restorative this can be. I frequently do this in the day. It's been said for women that it's really beneficial if we would do this every morning, late morning, and every time in the middle of the afternoon. I also like to use it if I'm transitioning, if I'm able to have a few minutes between my role as a doctor to my role as mama. I'm able to take 11 minutes in between. It really helps reset me and be fully present to be the best for my kids. All right. So I was going to say that when we were at convention, doTERRA did this, had a fantastic talk on sleep. And Dr. Louise Rose is going to be talking about that in a few months. And they came out with this awesome blend that Josie's going to talk about.
All right. Thank you, Jenny. And I love those pearls about Shavasana and taking the time. There's so many little tools that we have from moments of a little bit of pranayama to a little bit of yoga to, right? So the breathings, pranayama and the yoga. But it's also one of the first things I started using and playing around with the oils is sometimes you don't even have 11 minutes, right? You don't have that time in that transition. And that's when just having an oil, like we have in the touch, the aromatherapy ones, right? You can have that. I have them in my purse and I might not have that 11 minutes or that 5 minutes to do some Qigong but I can do this. And I'm just getting the oils 2 ways, aromatically and topically right there. And then I can go into my transition and they're starting to affect all of my neurochemistry, my limbic system, my brain, and my bloodstream by doing that. So it's really amazing how profound just a tiny bit of oil and taking that 30 seconds can be in it. So I just wanted to say that. Yeah. What happened we had a fantastic presentation about sleep and really how important it is. And not next month, December, but in January, Dr. Louise Rose, we have a whole presentation on sleep. And so that's really exciting. doTERRA has added 3 new oils to their Serenity Restful Blend. So this is, if you're not familiar with it, it's an incredible blend by doTERRA of it's lavender, Lang Lang, marjoram, Roman chamomile, vanilla, and sandalwood. And then sandalwood really being the one grounding, earthy bass note tone in there. And they listened to us and they added 3 more so they added vetiver, cedarwood, and hoe wood. And it is
so much better. We are loving it. This is an amazing blend to help support you through the day in all your moments of stress. So, and in sleep. I use it for hangry kind of road rage car stuff. That's where I tend to get the most stressed out, is in my car and driving around in Portland. And so that's really helpful for me. But I also have another bottle besides my car. It's always right up on my bedstand. And one of my greatest talents in life is sleeping. I'm so good at it, but I want to stay that way, especially entering into perimenopause. And so I am really pretty religious about supporting myself for my sleep process, because it's just fun and it smells great. Love it anyways. And so I use Serenity every night. I think I do this every time. I love it, you guys. Here we go. It's left over from the yoga days, but here it is. Here's the bottom of the foot. And every night I just go on the opposite hand to the opposite foot, and I go and I always like to say the extra benefit is you get a little bit of foot massage. I'm known for sitting there at night, and if I'm like, reading or watching TV or mellowing out, I just start massaging my feet, and I'm using an oil. But it can be as easy as just this. And then the other foot, I rub on the back of my neck. Here's the blood supply to your brain. You want to be affecting that for
Can
sleep.
you use your foot to rub the back of your neck?
Yeah, almost.
Nice.
And don't forget your pillow. I kind of get on my hands and go on my pillow. But as you can see here too, right? I'm loving the new Lotus diffuser. Having a diffuser is the other way of using it. You can use all three and diffusing at night. So, lavender works wonders, but Serenity is just a beautiful, beautiful combination. So here we go. There's our new. And then, yay! They finally listened to me. It was my pleas for an internal complex, because we know how much all of us are working with stress and sleep issues. When you're a clinician, it's huge. You start to really see how pervasive this is. And so they came out with the Serenity Restful Complex. And this is a gel cap that has lavender essential oil in it, plus 100 milligrams of the amino acid L-theanine, which is really supportive for helping to calm and support the nervous system, but not drowsy, doesn't add to any drowsiness. And then a blend of 3 herbs of lemon balm, which is Melissa, and then passion flower and German chamomile. And this is just an incredible blend to help get you to sleep. It really works with the nervous system and anxiety. I call it an anti-anxiety as well for the daytime. A lot of people are finding real support using it, not just in helping for getting to sleep, but also in the daytime for just helping for stress and for anxiety and worry reduction. And anecdotally, we're also seeing that it's very much helping with dreams and enhancing that deeper level of sleep for dreaming.
Yeah, it's a great formula, and it is a lot of the herbs that we would use for anxiety as well, and the L-theanine as well. It's great. So when we talk about stress, the real question is, what tools can you use to help manage your stress? Because it isn't about stopping the stress. That's not going to happen, and we actually need some stress to benefit our health. We found that some stress is really beneficial to us. So it's really not the amount of stress or that there isn't even stress, it's our interpretation of the stress. If you interpret that as this tiger right here that's about ready to kill you, then that's not so good for you. But if you interpret it as a challenge or something, that a place where you get to go into your more creative potential, that can be a really beneficial thing to you. So I have to say this last line, do you get a break from your stress to rest? As I was going over and we were creating this presentation, that line was sort of cycling through my brain for a couple days. And I was really thinking, because I'm a doer, I do a lot of things. And I was really asking myself that question for my own presentation. Am I giving myself a break from my stress to rest? And I thought about that, and there are a lot of things that I do in my day to bring myself down throughout the day. So when I get ramped up, I can bring myself back down. I have my meditation practice and those kinds of things. I also, as Josie talks about, I don't always have time to do a bigger thing. So I bring things in the moment. I will look out the window and notice the strand of light on a raindrop on a leaf and just be in the moment of that beauty, or a leaf or a flower on a vase on my desk, that kind of thing. And that brings me back in. And then I also reach for my oils. And I just find every single time I reach for my balance, I reach for my lavender, I reach for I have another one of my oils, and I put on my wrist, I smell it, and I'm just like, it brings me down. I come back to my body. I'm back at that more healthy, balanced place, ready to deal with whatever's next. All right, which brings us to our limbic brain. Josie, would you like to talk about this?
This is the old part of our brain. This is it's back here. It's in this kind of back in the center, and it keeps our heart rate going, our breathing, the basic, they call it the reptilian aspects. And it's also connected, though, to our old memories, our deep memories, our tendencies. And so, as Dr. T just spoke about, our responses to stress, a lot of how we respond to our life stresses is learned behavior from very early on, right? And a lot of the self-work and the self-care and the personal development that we do is to examine and look at these things and help us to adjust how we respond to stress. Because as we said, it's not exactly, you're going to be interacting with stress, and life is stressful. It's how you respond to it. And so these aspects are in this part of the brain called the limbic brain and the amygdala. And what is amazing is that our oils, so I put some on my feet and I'm rubbing it, and now I'm smelling. Just in doing that, taking it in, those aromatic molecules are passing right up through my nostrils. There's a cribriform plate right in here to the olfactory bulb, and right up into the limbic system of the brain, and being able to affect those old relationships and tendencies of emotion through the aromatic compounds. So smells in the oils and those compounds can help us to unravel our responses to stressful situations, how we deal with them, and our emotional memories with them, and help us come out of deep states. You know, when we think about things like post-traumatic stress, and just emotional states of overwhelm, worry, anxiety, depression, grief, all of these things can be very much aided and helped with the oils in our brain chemistry. And it's not that we don't go through grief then, let's say. It's helping you to have a more balanced and appropriate response in how you deal with that. So it's always about how are you reacting and dealing with the stresses that come up, and do you have better tools specifically inside of you in your neurochemistry that the oils are helping to affect for you to then respond to your outer life with.
Yeah, and I would just say that it's very, very healthy for us to express our pure emotions, our pure grief, our pure anger, our pure joy. Those are very important for us to express. It's the spin out around those. It's the anticipation of it. It's the fallout after we've experienced it, of that whole spin out, that is the part that is not in our best interest. And by using these oils, it's one of the ways that we can shift into being into the next state. Yeah. All right.
So we wanted to just give you guys I like this word, shout out, right? We talk a lot about lavender as being one of the main oils, is known for this constituent called linalool that really helps to manage stress and reduce or balance our cortisol. And we wanted to let you know that it's not just lavender. It's also doTERRA's basil and coriander. These guys are high in linalool as well, and therefore really helpful with your stress response and managing that and your adrenal health. And specifically the basil from doTERRA, you don't want to compare that to other essential oils of basil.
Other companies' basil usually is not high in linalool, and it can be kind of more on the caustic side. And doTERRA's basil is very different and much more of a similar to lavender, actually. It's one of the ones that we think about when actually putting right straight topically on your adrenal area or on the area on your feet to really help support your adrenals. And bringing back that connection to our estrogen and progesterone and the golden triangle and the effects of the adrenals then to our ovaries and what we call the sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. This was a study done, and adrenaline is very similar to cortisol. It's a stress hormone, and we all know about adrenaline. It's one of the things that is helping you to run against the tiger, run away from, and it amps up with that in those high situations. And it's not supposed to be high all the time, and it's supposed to be just little spikes, but we're having it more and more high at a constant level in our lives. And so when adrenaline is present in your blood, you cannot use your progesterone. There's a cell interceptor interference. So it's one of the reasons I'll talk about in our part 2 is it's just this predominance of women in today's world going into perimenopause and menopause who are really progesterone deficient, low in their progesterone. And this is a big reason why. So there's a study of inhaling rose and patchouli that caused a 30% decrease in blood adrenaline levels. So we can infer a lot from that. When you hear adrenaline, you can also think cortisol. And when you hear rose and patchouli, as Dr. Hill says, lavender, citrus oils, Whisper, which is a beautiful blend of doTERRA's. It was their hormone balancing blend before Clary Calm came out. And other woody base note oils. Because patchouli is a very resinous, thick, what we call a woody base note oil, and other ones like it. So think vetiver, cedarwood, sandalwood, frankincense. So he's saying do the same as the rose and patchouli. So these are all oils you want to think of to help really support that balancing with your adrenaline and your cortisol and your stress response.
And I just
want another study, where they were showing that just breathing the aroma of lavender, so that's usually in those studies, it's through a diffuser. So they're saying that there was a diffuser going in a room, significantly reduced cortisol levels.
So we don't have the slide here, but petitgrain. Do you want to talk a little bit about petitgrain in terms of its help with?
Do we take it out?
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh,
sorry.
Here it is. Yeah. So this is a new oil from doTERRA. You guys, it is beautiful. It's so lovely. It comes from the leaf of the wild orange tree. The flower is called neuli, and we have the orange, the wild orange, but that's from the bitter orange. It's from different trees. But it's from the same tree as the flower of the neuli, and this is the leaf. Look at this. It's very similar to lavender. Again, it's a high linalool. You can think about it that way. So we just didn't have it in that previous slide with the other guys. You can think about it with the cortisol, the basil, and the lavender. Also think petitgrain. It is beautiful smelling, really lovely to diffuse. It's really fun to blend. We're all playing around with it. I highly recommend bringing it into your palette or arsenal very soon. And there's so many tidbits. I mean, we probably will do a call on the new, people are on the new oils, but Dr. Jenny and I took this from Dr. Hill from the convention, where there shows that it restores lymphocytes and neutrophils and relaxes smooth muscles even when under stress. So what does that mean? Lymphocytes and neutrophils are your good white blood cells that are basically, when we talk about increasing and helping your immune system work better, that's what we're talking about. So here it was helping the immune system to function, to be better. And then relaxing smooth muscle is basically that tension that starts to grip and affect your blood pressure going high and your mood, everything in your body with stress. So it's helping to relax all of these systems and enhance your immune system. And we would be remiss if we did not talk about the AromaTouch technique here in terms of one of the most beautiful
ways to help support your overall homeostasis, which is really your nervous system and your stress response coming into balance. Your whole nervous system's coming in, so you're really in that place where you are ready to meet the stresses of the world and have all your functioning at its best. That's what homeostasis means. And the whole idea of the AromaTouch technique is to help assist your body to come back and remember that state. And really the recommendation is to have it once a week. And so the idea is we should all get trained in this, and we should be all swapping and giving each other AromaTouch techniques. I mean, that's my ideal world. It's the application of these 8 oils along the spine in about a 45-minute application process, this technique, and it's absolutely wonderful. Please reach out and experience it find someone. And if you are not trained, look out for how you can get trained and get a training. We offer them in Portland every a quarter at least.
All right. So yeah, I love the AromaTouch. All right. So I geeked out a bit and did a bunch of research on PubMed on some of the oils that we've been talking about, just to see what was out there in terms of research. I'm just going to go through these fairly quickly. And some of these were the animal studies, some of them were human studies. Most of them were using them just as aromatherapy tools. Not very much was for internal use. But just to quickly give a shout out here to bergamot, which I love, and is another citrus oil. And what they showed here is that that actually bergamot works as well as benzodiazepines in helping with some mood-related issues. So that can be really pretty amazing. And here's some other slides here looking at clary sage as being helpful to uplift the mood for women who are going through hormonal changes. And vetiver, again, was really helpful and compared with some animal studies in comparing it to some other medications, and was also found to be really helpful in improving people's mood. And of course, lavender and rosemary are in there. And some more research around lang lang and rose oil. And then, of course, our citrus oils, which we know are wonderful for helping improve, elevate our mood. And here's just a number of different studies showing that effect. Here's some more lists of essential oils that can help balance the adrenals. The basil supportive, Josie talked about that. I love using basil. I just put a few drops in my hand, give it a big whiff, and then I rub it right where my adrenals are, right there. It feels so good. And I just feel like when I put basil on there, I just feel supported. I feel like somebody's got my back, and that is a great feeling. Again, you can see here bergamot helps with anxiety, rosemary is beneficial, frankincense decreases inflammation. We have geranium and clary sage being helpful. And then more essential oils, lavender again, chamomile, sandalwood, patchouli, vetiver, cedarwood, and frankincense, some of the trees and some of the notes that Josie was talking about. There's a number of the oils that we just talked about are in Clary Calm, and I often think Clary Calm to the rescue, especially now in my perimenopausal state. I always have a roller bottle in my purse, and I really find that it helps with my hot flashes and with mood fluctuations. This is a combination that I have put together. I actually have some right here in my little roller bottle of bergamot, basil, clary sage, and rosemary. It smells fantastic. I actually use it neat, but you can dilute it. So you can create equal parts in a roller bottle and then just top it up with fractionated coconut oil. And again, this is one that I roll right on my adrenals and it feels fantastic, or I just put it on my wrist and give it a smell. You're getting the benefit of both the topical and the aromatic. We need to talk about Slim and Sassy, Josie.
Yeah. Well,
the misnamed oil. I'm going to start out saying it's the misnamed oil. I think this should be the adrenal and detox oil, but I can't think of a catchy name for it yet.
Yeah, the endocrine EO oil. I don't know. I like to call it the essential oil blend. Look what's in it: peppermint, ginger, cinnamon, lemon, and grapefruit.
Right.
it's just those basic oils, herbs that have so many broad-ranging qualities that are so helpful for us in all of our detoxification, our hormone support, our adrenal support, and helping to balance blood sugar, weight loss, cholesterol, cortisol, boost immunity and mood, energy, helping with sugar cravings and balancing that whole hangry thing. This is probably the biggest gift I've ever given my friends, is that I carry this around with me. It's because I'll get too multitasking and doing too many things and not eat, and I'll get quickly into a low blood pressure, low blood sugar situation and get really hangry and not good. And I will use Slim and Sassy it will bring up my blood sugar and give me about 1 to 2 hours to get to healthy food. So you don't want to get yourself into that situation. It's not to say you should be doing this, but if you are, it's very helpful, because I don't like to, when you get into that place, you can want to, grab, the only thing around is usually bad food. It's not that, so either there's something very carby or sugary, and Slim and Sassy will help you in the situations. I use it before exercising, helping with my metabolism, and I use it for energy, and I use it 2 to 3 drops 2 to 3 times a day to help me not get in. So preventatively, as our support, it is truly an adrenal tonic. It very much is, and I notice the difference when I'm on top of it and I'm doing consistent 2 to 3 drops 2 to 3 times a day. My energy being able to be stable and me not dipping into those hangry moments, it's so much less, and I'm so much more stable. Really, really give this a try. The high dose for trying to really push weight loss or a metabolic situation, so I call it a protocol dose, is the highest, is 5 drops 5 times a day. Maintenance kind of tonic to support yourself is 2 to 3 drops 2 to 3 times a day. I do it straight under the tongue, right with the oil. You can do it in water, in your water bottle. You can take it right with a glass of water. There is the gel caps where each cap has 5 drops in it. So you can really decide what's the best way for you to be working with it. So we're going to go into the main nutrients that are kind of that the adrenals love and need to help them be working correctly. And the main ones you want to think about are magnesium, B5, B6, vitamin C, and vitamin E. You want to see those in good representation in your diet and in a multivitamin. That's another thing that I teach about and go into, is our food source and is not what it was. And even when you're eating organic and as well as you can, to support and supplement yourself with a whole food multivitamin and mineral complex like doTERRA's Multiplex VMZ is incredibly beneficial. The energy difference, the detoxification difference, the difference you'll see in your metabolism and all the rest of your health is just profound. So it's one of the main things we really, when you think about adrenal health, you think about that foundation of helping to support all of these systems and that symphony. Correct nutrition and eating is of vital importance in the pyramid, but along with that correct and helpful eating is the supplementation. A lot of people want to understand more about what makes doTERRA's VMZ so fantastic and different, because the experience that so many people have is this one of it being incredibly different and absorbable and easy to take, and they don't burp up or have that kind of weird sense in their stomach that they do with so many vitamins. And it has to do with the whole food formulation that is. And it is called a glycoprotein matrix. And most people are like, glyco what? And if you're reading, I want to highlight some of this because I really want people to understand more what's going on with this amazing formulation. And so the VMZ is presented in a patented glycoprotein matrix to
promote absorption. That's bioavailability, what makes these nutrients actually available to our cells. So we are not what we eat, we're what we absorb. I want to make a bumper sticker of that. Like that's, and it's so true. The name of the game with good supplementation, so much of it is actually the systems and how it can get into our body and into our cells and be bioavailable. So this is the whole point of this glycoprotein matrix. To make the vitamin glycoprotein compound, a vitamin is introduced to a culture of lactobacillus, so that's acidophilus. Remember, good probiotics, that's lactobacillus acidophilus. So it's introduced to a culture of lactobacillus and yeast. So this is a Saccharomyces yeast. As we mentioned, we did before, this is a good yeast. This is not the kind of bad yeast that is like having, what would we call it, candida, and an overgrowth of the bad yeast that is so common for us. This is actually beneficial and works against that. So they introduced a vitamin to a cultured, so it's almost like fermented, lactobacillus and yeast. And as it grows, the yeast metabolizes and binds the vitamin into the protein matrix, making it recognizable as a food. So it's really seen by our body as food, and it's very, very different from a synthetic isolated vitamin that is not seen as food and our body can have real difficulty with. And then basically all the minerals in this complex are worked with the same process where they are cultured in yeast to promote bioavailability. So if you have not tried a multivitamin, or particularly this one, I highly recommend that you do as a foundation to really all wellness. Now, the other things that make the adrenals happy, besides those foundational nutrients, are adaptogenic herbs. So these are herbs that are really help the adrenals and some of our whole hormonal systems and our detoxification systems. And the way they help is they help bring it in, just like all the oils that we talk about, they help bring things into balance. And an adaptogenic herb is one where it doesn't just make things, if it's high, go low, or if it's low, go high. Adaptogenic means that it has a real movement and synergy within the body, allowing for that flexibility that for some, we talked about those different types of adrenal fatigue, and some people are up here with cortisol and some people are down here. If you gave an herb that just basically brought cortisol up or just brought it from high down, it would only work for half the people, right? So what if you had herbs that helped balance and had that smart intelligence to, if it's here, it helps bring you into the balance section, homeostasis. If it's here, it helps bring you back to homeostasis. That's what an adaptogenic herb is. So there are quite a few of them in two of the supplements that doTERRA has to offer. One is Alpha CRS and the other is Mito2 Max. So I'm going to go through each of these. So Mito2 Max is pretty much doTERRA's adrenal supplementation. It says their energy and stamina complex, and two of its adaptogenic formula. It helps with mental energy, stamina, oxygenation, and it really helps to give energy to the mitochondria, the energy center of the cell. Two of the main adaptogenic herbs are cordyceps mushroom, which is a beautiful mushroom known in Chinese medicine that has been used for long periods of time and is really very powerful and effective. And then ashwagandha, again, used ages in Ayurvedic healing, and they have called it over time the rejuvenator, the great adaptogen, the restorative immune enhancer. Besides these two herbs, there are incredible nutrients in here. There is a specialized form of lychee berry that is highly bioavailable because it's usually not, as a great circulation enhancer. There is alpha-lipoic acid and CoQ10 and acetyl L-carnitine. So this is a wonderful one to be adding in specifically for energy and adrenal support.
And I'll just
And
add that one of the things that I look at with people, if you're really exhausted after you've really done something 3 days later, then you probably have a mitochondrial issue as well. And this formula is really great for the mitochondria, which is why it's called Mito2 Max.
yeah, thanks. Right. And so alpha CRS is the cellular vitality complex. I call it the antioxidant complex. And so what I want to make clear here is the whole food multivitamin and mineral, VMZ, and then this alpha CRS, and there's a third supplement, which is the omega blend, the EO omega. These three together, doTERRA sells as a trio pack called the Lifelong Vitality Complex. And I recommend this to most people as part of that foundational support. So what you're getting in the alpha CRS, this is a huge formula. It is very, very wide reaching. Boswellia is frankincense. It's the resins that don't make it into the essential oils. So with the frankincense essential oil, and here you're just getting incredible coverage of antioxidant, anti-inflammatory support. So Scutellaria is, again, it goes along with the ashwagandha and cordyceps. It's a beautiful herb for helping really with the nervous system and the adrenals. Milk thistles for liver. And then you get into all of these other antioxidants that really help supercharge all of our detoxification and anti-inflammatory processes. Plus that cellular energy blend, again, similar with the acetyl-L-carnitine, alpha-lipoic acid. So the LLV is a real baseline, and then sometimes for that extra mitochondrial support, we say add in the MitoMax.
All right, so we've talked a lot about the adrenals, and so the foundation for that, and we are going to go deeper into the other hormonal pieces in a few months. But just for those of you who can't wait, we wanted to talk a little bit about thyroid and then some of the other hormones, just so you can get some ideas to start working on right now. So first the adrenals and the thyroid, Josie.
Oh, you want to? Okay, I was going to let you just go.
No,
go with it. Okay, so part of this is just a remembrance that the thyroid and the adrenals, like, they're BFFs, they're best friends, in that you don't treat one without the other. So they're really linked. And so if this is an issue and it's very common, low thyroid in the perimenopause and menopausal areas, it's very connected with the adrenals, right? When you have high cortisol, you can see you get decreased, those are your thyroid hormones. So they're very interrelated, and you need to start working with the adrenals at the same time or before you start working with the thyroid. And these are 4 oils in a blend. Sometimes people use them independently, sometimes people blend them, but we've seen using myrrh, lemongrass, clove, and frankincense on the thyroid 1 to 2 times a day. So just you can make up a blend, do it with the carrot oil, coconut, doing it on the actual throat, and then also you see the reflex points here on the bottom of the big toe area, once to twice a day with the LLV. And there's another supplement that we haven't talked about, we'll talk about next time, the DDR, and being gluten-free. Those are the big main things that we would recommend for specific thyroid support. And we also wanted to cover the phytoestrogen complex. This is, there's some controversy around phytoestrogens and their use, and they are very safe for most of us. It really, the controversy comes in with cancer and cancer history, and so that we will leave off the table. But for everyone else, the role of phytoestrogens is to really help support our body in dealing with 2 things: the lowering levels of our natural estrogens as we are going into menopause. These are beautiful plant compounds that can fit into our estrogen receptor sites and help our body deal with the lowering natural estrogen and have a little bit of positive estrogen effect. So that's one thing. The second thing that they really help to do, well, there's three things they do. The second thing they help to do is to work against the xenoestrogens. Xenoestrogens are synthetic compounds like plastics that are pervasive in our world today that are working in those, trying to get into those same receptor sites and cause bad havoc in our body. And so these natural phytoestrogens, again, compete and fit into those receptor sites so that the plastics, the xenoestrogens, don't. So that's another good thing that they're doing. And then the third really great thing that natural phytoestrogens are doing is they are these lignans, flaxseed lignans. They are the solid part of, like we say, the flax oil. These natural phytoestrogens help absorb up, or like Pac-Man, eat up what we call potentially harmful byproducts, toxic metabolites of estrogen metabolism. You're like, what's that? That is that in the process of our body naturally eliminating hormones from our body, there can be these in-between steps that get stuck because our liver is sometimes overworked. And this is a common thing in most natural medicines like Ayurvedic medicine and Chinese medicine. When women present with hormone imbalances, the first thing they usually look at is they say, treat the liver. The liver is what it metabolizes and gets our hormones out. And it gets, in a sense, in a very unscientific term, clogged or backed up, yeah, or sluggish. And so these in-between steps can be very harmful actually in our body. They're worse than the beginning or the end. And these are what are called toxic metabolites. And it's the natural phytoestrogens that help absorb these up and carry them out of our body. So they're doing really powerful things. And this phytoestrogen complex is the flaxseed lignans, and then it has cranberry seed and pomegranate extracts as well. So it's really helpful for issues with perimenopause, menopause, and helping to balance hormones and the effects. So when you think about hot flashes and those things still happening when you're supporting in all these other ways, or PMS, and some of these effects of high estrogen, think of using the phytoestrogen complex.
All right. So I always get the $1 million question when people come in to see me, which is, how long is it going to take until I feel better? And I always have to say the truth, which is that it depends. It's very individualized. Sometimes people just have a little minor issue going on with their adrenal glands or a thyroid or hormone imbalance. And it's pretty easy actually to get them back and up and running in a very balanced state. Other times they've been working on this and digging themselves in a hole for years. And so it can take time to get out. And it also depends on how stressful their life is as they're going through their healing journey. So it depends. So I have to say, honestly, it's months to years. Now, that said, when I am specifically addressing the adrenal aspect of somebody's health, and I give them an adrenal protocol, I start using herbs and oils and lifestyle for the adrenal glands, I expect them to start feeling better in 2 weeks. I don't mean all the way better, but I mean, yeah, I have more energy in the day, or I don't need my naps anymore, or I noticed I got up with a little bit more joy today, that kind of thing. So if you're starting to incorporate some of these ideas and you're not noticing a change within the first few weeks, you might want to come check in with a functional medicine doctor or naturopath who can help you figure out what else might be going on. And I would say that a few things in close. One is that despite what the beauty and drug industry wants you to believe, true vitality comes from what is going on inside of our body. If we heal the inside, then the outside is going to show it. And then the other thing I have to say is that what we want, all the vitality that we want, is within our reach. Yes, we really live in an extremely high stress world, and we have toxins externally around that are affecting us that Josie talked about. And we also have all this internal stress. And yes, this internal stress adds to that burden of it. but I also really know that we have the ability to heal ourselves. And what we have is we have this, I really believe that the plant world is here to help us heal. And if we take time to notice this amazing, beautiful, incredible world of plants, and we listen to them and we use them, they will help us rebalance and detoxify and return to our joyous center. They will do that for us. And in return for using these plants, we are again healing the planet from which they can. And that to me just is the coolest thing ever. So please, we're so fortunate to have these oils to use. Please enjoy them, enjoy your healing journey, and take care. And thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Dr. T, and thank you, Dr. Josie. I always learn so much from both of you. And again, I'm just so grateful for all the wisdom that you have to share. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up our webinar, but we want to invite you to join us, especially if you're new to doTERRA. The best way to get your oils is through a wholesale account. And so please reach out to the person that invited you to this webinar and they can help you get going. And if you are here and you don't know anybody through doTERRA, and if you've just found this webinar online, please reach out to us at info@essentialwellness.life and we will help you get started. So we hope that you all have a beautiful day and start incorporating these very important techniques. I know that I have in my life, and I've spent quite a while healing my adrenal fatigue that used to be really bad, and it's much, much better now. So it's really worth taking the time and the attention and the effort to bring these healing modalities into your life. Okay, so thank you all. I'm going to stop the recording.